Climate, climate, climate. Please don't change.
Hi, welcome to Everyman Radio. I'm Richard Sawyer, and in this week's podcasts, we have about an hour, an interview that I have had with Will Fanken, the comedian, and it was earlier in the week, last week. We had this interview, and it was great, really good. And so this is a recording of that interview. It was interesting towards the end, where we started talking, Will started talking about his philosophical, religious connections. And at that point, kaboom, the sound cut out completely. It was strange. So we called back and then just finished our interview, and yeah, it was great. And yeah, I'd like to thank Will Fanken very much for his time, and yeah, it was great. So I hope you enjoy.
Podcast on Everyman Radio.
Hello.
Hi. Fantastic.
How's it going, mate?
Yeah, it's great. All the better to actually connect with you.
Is this Rich then?
Richard, yeah.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. So this is Will.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Fantastic. So do you have about half an hour to chat?
Yeah, I do, man, yeah. I was just having a cracker marathon. You ever seen that show?
Pardon? Sorry?
Cracker with Robbie Coltrane? Detective series, kind of like a 90s version of Minder.
Okay, no, I don't think I have. I thought, actually, I misheard you, and I thought you said you were just taking crack.
Oh, no, I've never done that.
Oh, good to hear it.
I highly recommend the show, though. It's amazing.
And it's called Kraken.
Cracker.
Oh, Cracker.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Is that quite old? Or...
Mid-90s. It was a Manchester detective thriller. It was Robbie Coltrane. It's just, I'm finally just having a box set couple days. Just, yes, I got an hour, man, definitely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it sounds
Where
good.
Where are you based, by the way?
Oh, right, okay. So, East Grinstead in West Sussex.
I've been there. I've gigged there.
Really?
That's where Good King Wenceslas was written, from what I understand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, up at the orphanage. It's like an orphanage, an old Victorian era orphanage or something, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Little bits are like that. I suppose I've only lived here a year, and so little nuggets of amazing things, old facts about East Grinstead are of interest to me. So I kind of.
Oh, so you just moved down there then?
Yeah, so about a year.
Okay, sweet, man, sweet. From where? London?
Good question. Yeah, we can say that.
Okay, sounds cool, man.
So, well, I've moved around a lot. Okay, that's why I'm sort of hesitating. So, London, never. Sorry, I'm never eat shredded wheat. I always have to say that to think. So, whereabouts was I in London? Never eat shredded wheat. So, West London. So I actually
West London, okay.
Staines, with the Staines massive. I was there for a couple of years.
Okay, I have no Staines, yeah.
It's okay. Oh yeah, it's just typical, one of those places that was just what it was. It was Staines, but then they rebranded it to Staines upon Thames to make it more appealing.
Posher.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah. Well, sweet. What's your podcast, by the way?
So Everyman Radio.
Okay.
Everyman.
And is there a theme or?
So I suppose the theme generally is quite general, in a way.
Beautiful.
Aiming to speak with interesting people, more the truthy kind of people, those that actually do care about things, are generally chosen the right side to be on. Not that there really are those. So, and music as well. So,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah. So, in the process, well, I'm doing quite a lot of things. In the process of making music.
Okay.
So I can play the trumpet and vocals. I'm talking about it because later on today we're going to try and record a song with the guitarist is Sebastian, who's the artist who I've done a podcast with a couple of months ago.
Okay.
A very talented guy, and he enjoys the technology of mixing, and so he bores me to death with all the different software he's got to put drum beats and riffs and things, and just a whole different world, really. But we're going to have a crack.
That's today then. You're doing this.
Well, yeah, later today, but it's like lots of things. We kind of tentatively agree. Okay, yeah, we'll do that tonight, and it just vaporizes. Really, things pop up, and so. But we'll see. And I think the idea behind that is finance. So I want to do a podcast on finance, economy, more on the kind of truthy side of thing of what actually is happening with the economy.
Right.
So wondering, when is it going to collapse?
Or if, perhaps.
Yes. No, I'm glad you said that. If I kind of get very kind of, well, I listen to different broadcasters in the kind of alternative field, and some I think are very, very good. And so in that field, I quite enjoy Max Kaiser on Russia Today.
Oh, okay.
And he tends to be pretty quite reliable, but he is heavily invested in Bitcoin, and so does talk a lot about Bitcoin for whatever reason.
Somebody asked. I got an email from somebody after this thing went viral. They said, "Do you take Bit currency donations?" And I said, "I'm such a Luddite, and I've got PayPal. That's about it." But I'm fairly anti the proliferation of technology as it is, and I do think that it's going to be all automated very shortly. There's going to be like an oligarchy at the top who actually has jobs, and but then if you're not in computers, that's really it. That's like your options. I don't know. Did you see that clip? That Greta? Yeah, you did. I think because you mentioned it in the email, but
yeah. So the Greta. So our last podcast, then, this was me being a little bit cheeky, and I say that because I normally prefer actually interviewing a live human being about what they're up to, and then adding different music tracks to that. But with this, for the first time, what I did was put together a collection of different videos that were floating around Facebook and were very popular, and your comedy sketch being one of those.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, which I loved because well, the whole CO2 climate change thing is just one of those things, just one of a seemingly endless supply of utter nonsense that just infuriates me.
Oh, absolutely.
And just a whole bandwagon of, you say Luddites, but I don't even know what these people are. They're just, I don't have any favourable words for them. They're just kind of swimming in this soup of chaos and just...
Well, they're definitely not Luddites. I would disagree with that.
Yeah.
They're definitely people who, they have such a mindless love of computers that they kind of just go along with whatever, is suggested to them. Like, this is a real thing, and I know because I was on Twitter, and all my other friends on Twitter believe in this too. And they're kind of going along. See, they don't mind being part of a collective. I hate collectives. I've always been pro-individual right down the line, and I think these people want to be extras in like a Hunger Games film. Like they don't want to be the hero of a film individually. If you're an individual, you have a chance to be the hero or be a leader, but they are perfectly fine being an emaciated extra because their lives are so empty. And I got a lot to say about this. But this Roger Hallam guy who started this Extinction Rebellion nonsense. I think he's just some sad sack that wants to relive his teenage years. That's all this guy is, and we're actually playing out his fantasy on a global scale. It's really depressing.
Yeah, it is. And what I did with the last podcast, so I put together different clips, more starting on the science front, really, those that are actually do care, dedicated researchers who actually do want the truth, and so they questioned the consensus and put together actual, real facts and truth about what the climate has been doing for thousands of years, hundreds of years, and where we are now in the well, there's different kind of viewpoints of how severe, but generally a basic principle being that the sun is the boss, and what we do weather-wise, it really is dependent on the sun's activity, and it's going through a very low solar cycle that could last 10, 20, 30 years. I don't know. I don't really know where we are in that, but I know this winter will be pretty nasty.
Well, I don't doubt it. I mean, for me it was, are we recording now, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, sweet, man, cool. I mean, for me it was 2006, it was just, because I'm not in science, that's not my field, obviously, but in 2006, Inconvenient Truth came out, and I was living in San Francisco at the time, where everything was so far to the left. Like, they had no interest in 9/11. They didn't care about, the Danish cartoons. They didn't really believe in freedom of speech. But when Inconvenient Truth came out, the whole city was just, this is amazing, it's so powerful. And I saw the same movie, and it had the exact opposite effect on me. And my first hunch was that Al Gore, he loses the presidential election in a highly contested election. I had to count the Chads down in Florida. So he's got to stay politically relevant somehow. So George Bush, because 9/11 happened on his watch, he's got the terrorist angle. And in order for Al Gore to stay relevant, he's got to come up with an enemy that's PC. It's got to be politically correct enemy, and involve a bunch of junk science. And that's what he had. It's like, voila, I've got this global warming nonsense. So the political machinations, I think, were pretty evident early on for me.
Yeah, I just remember his hockey stick or whatever thing he was trying to present that we later has been very much discredited and thrown in a big pile of junk science, or I don't know, just a lie basically.
Yeah, it's just a mindless movement now, isn't it?
And
I think there's a lot of journalistic malpractice going on. If they didn't give them airtime, this stuff could end overnight. If Sky News decided they were going to cover, let's say a school in Manchester that had a great new reading program, if they made that the news, but they don't. They go right to the protests. They go right to the dreadlock kids, dirtying up an actual beautiful part of the outside. London, honestly, London's a great city, but it doesn't have many. It's got some beautiful open spaces, but it's mostly a city. So any beautiful open space in a city should be preserved, and yet they're polluting it. And they're very anti-environment. I'm down in Folkestone, the birds and the seas, and that's real conservation.
Oh, right.
I grew up with that in Missouri. We learned to have to respect wildlife. Some of us deer hunted. I wasn't a really deer hunter, but you grew up with a love for nature, and you didn't go around just randomly. But this is not conservation at all. It's part fad. It's part madness. It's part it's definitely a lot of money. There's tons of money involved in this thing. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things I'm very interested in, and keep learning about really. And I suppose it's just a classic kind of follow the money. But
That's it. Yeah.
and I'm quite interested. So you're American?
Originally, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's my ethnicity, if you will.
Gosh.
But
how'd you cope with
that? What's that?
How'd you cope with that?
Well, I mean, spiritually, I've always felt connected to Britain, and this country was a beacon to me as a young man. My literary, historical, comedic influences almost primarily come from this country.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm one of those weirdos that lives in Britain because he loves it.
Goodness.
You know, I'm not here for a better life. I'm here because this is to be around such history, and all of its ups and downs, and this is the land of Pope and Dryden and Python and Cook and
yes,
Morris. It's and America. I have some American influences, obviously. I mean, quite a few actually. Mark Twain and Jonathan Winters, but this country it was really in touch with its subconscious in a very, and I think because of the repression, I think because there was so much repression, that when the subconscious was allowed to explode, it was a very beautiful, unrivaled thing, particularly in sketch comedy.
Yeah, I do. I'm pretty in awe, actually, of some of the comedies that have been created in England. Really, well, the best. I think it's just amazing that this little island does have, for some reason, does have incredible comedy talent. So.
Oh, absolutely, and it's just gone off course. I'm not sure when or where, but I think I think Peter Hitchens was right when he said that Britain borrowed a lot of. They took a lot of bad stuff from America and they left the best stuff behind. So they said you can keep the free speech amendment and the Second Amendment and all that stuff, but we will take the shitty reality TV shows and the oversensitivity and the psychiatry. We'll take the psychiatry as well, which Britain used to mock it a lot more, but now they've kind of embraced it full on, which I think with all this therapy, it doesn't help comedy too much.
Okay. And in terms of then comedy, then what is it that you're actually doing the most of? And I don't know. Are you going out and doing stand-up different venues and?
I do gigs if the fee's all right and I can afford to earn a few quid and not have to spend too much on travel. I love performing live, and if I'm not performing, I try to come up with some weird little studio project. I put out I guess technically the podcast, but for me it's just like one-man sketch show. So I call them comedy albums. So I do those if I get the chance. Sometimes I'll just make a video. I was working on a musical for a while.
Right.
But I think the subject matter may be slightly changing. But
well, that sounds fun.
I do a bit of everything.
Okay.
I try to.
What was the musical called, or what was it about?
Well, it was going to be the Book of Muhammad.
Oh, okay.
Only because I think I've always suddenly resented this Book of Mormon thing. I haven't seen it, but when people talk about punching up and punching down in comedy, you're talking about a minority. Like the Mormons are a minority. I'm not a Mormon myself, but the fact that you can take a minority like that, make a big West End Broadway musical, and have it advertised, and it's just like, does it work the other way? Can you do a Book of Muhammad and tell the story of Allah through songs?
Wow.
And I don't know, to be honest with you, it seems like a lot of that's died down lately. So it's just been an idea I've been toying around with, but the thing is with being a satirist is you have to know who the enemy is at any given moment. Who's on top. Right now it's the climate change thing.
Yeah.
I also think the next thing to come after that will be the free speech thing.
Yeah.
And I think because I've seen a lot of opportunists with the free speech movement now who 20 years ago they weren't concerned about any of this stuff, but now it's become like kind of a fashion. And I think that'll be the next thing to come around is that eventually we'll have to get past the endless debates and discussions about free speech and get down to convictions.
Mm.
And I think there's some institutions that they're heavily invested in there being constant debate. Well, Twitter, for example, Twitter's all about that. It's about insulting one-liners back and forth. We're the right, you're the left. We're the left, you're the right. So that's a more subtle enemy. But I think the one that's in our face right now is the climate change thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And so what's the main... so what's sort of the biggest topic you're then focusing on at the moment? Is it still that climate change, or are there other irons in the fire or things you're interested in? Or?
I mean, it's not that I change. It's just that something will set me off on a different tangent.
Okay.
So I don't want to be a one-issue person. I mean, I hate political correctness, and that's why a lot of the stuff that I do, because I'm getting a lot of nice feedback, and people are saying, some people are astute enough to say, like, you don't really you're not married to any one particular ideology, which I have my convictions. And underneath these things are, convictions. We don't always follow our convictions. We do the best we can. But like today, I don't want to be I did a climate change sketch on my Patreon account recently, but now you want to move on to different topics and then come back to them and revisit them again. It's just like the other day with the Manchester stabbing. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So five or six people got stabbed, I think, at Arndale.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so I heard as the news was playing in the background, as I was getting my cup of coffee. So the Prime Minister said he is in shock today. And so I'm going to do a bit where it all becomes about the Prime Minister's shock. So they said, 25 people have been stabbed today, and the Prime Minister has said he is in shock. Thoughts and prayers go out to the Prime Minister. # Prime Minister in shock. Then maybe a couple of interviews with him as he's in shock. Because and that's what one of the themes that I always have is it's about language and the stuff that we say that's supposedly not supposed to mean anything, but those phrases like thoughts and prayers and the hashtag language, it's so silly and so reductive, and it's like to say the Prime Minister is in shock is to imply that he's in a case of medical shock right now and he needs treatment, and it does tend to make it about the Prime Minister rather than the victims, but it's basically just playing with language. It's basically giving you what the news and the TV is saying and then flipping it around and saying it sounds like this or it could sound like this. So, and it's with the climate change thing for so long, it's just sounded so stupid. and what frustrates me, and I always tell people this, that a satirist, sometimes people say a satirist is a miserable old bastard, he's a real cynical misanthrope and he hates everything. That's not actually the case. The satirist is an optimist, and that's what fucks him up. Yeah, because he's got this, I don't underestimate people's intelligence. I always overestimate people's intelligence, and I think that's my problem. I assume that we're not that stupid as a human race. We went to the moon, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
But we are, and we're being made stupid by computers, psychiatry, the endless navel gazing, the transgender thing, which I get criticized a lot for too, because I don't know if you know this, but I dressed as a woman for 7 months in 2015, and I realized it wasn't for me.
Really?
And I constantly get beat over the head with this from critics.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, why not? If you're an artist, try something. So I tried it. It wasn't me. But I arrived at the wrong conclusion. You see, the movement, the collective, has a conclusion that you're supposed to reach, and that conclusion is you're never supposed to deviate from that. You can't have a David Bowie anymore. David Bowie went out. He dressed up in women's apparel, and then he didn't. And that was it. That was just David Bowie. That was rock and roll. It was what he wanted to do. Now it's a movement. It's a government-sanctioned, politically sanctioned movement.
Yeah, it's. I think it's just. I think it's just really cruel on young people to have that in their faces. The kind of it's mixed messages that is confusing for them.
Very much so. Very much so.
I suppose at times.
I always compare it to Mangala. I think what's happening is they're like the Mangalas of psychiatry and hormone blockers, voluntary genital mutilation encouraged by doctors who should know better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, I got so much hatred when I stopped calling myself Sarah and went back to Will after that 7-month stretch. And it was from people in the LGBT movement, not all of them, of course, but very frustrated, angry people who resented my choice. And again, you go back to it's the collectivist versus the individual. The collective hates choice. They absolutely despise individual choice.
Well, yeah, there's better names than Sarah you could have chosen.
Penelope. Get a real posh one,
Oh, yeah.
Geraldine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries.
No, I say things like that because at times I really do love the kind of the minuscule details of language, and I don't know, I go off at tangents sometimes.
Well, that's what it's all about. That's why I love James Joyce, and Monty Python. They elevated the mundane. Those little ridiculous things in human conversation can become entire sketches,
Yeah. So James Joyce, I'm trying to place who that is. Doesn't sound familiar to me.
The Irish author who wrote Ulysses.
Oh, okay.
A book about 24 hours in the life of Leopold Bloom.
Okay, so that's James Joyce.
Yeah, amazing author. I highly recommend the second to last chapter of Ulysses, Ithaca. Because what he does is he breaks down the narrative voice into a question and answer like a Catholic catechism. So every chapter of that book corresponded to a color, a philosophy, a section of the Odyssey. God, there's like 4 or 5 others. But it was such a complex commodity. So he set out to write a book about everything. He actually, in my opinion, got away with it. His ambition alone, I mean, you just don't see that anymore. There's no creative ambition. There's plenty of business ambition. Lots of comedians want to climb the ladder and all that, but nobody wants to do something creatively ambitious.
Okay.
Like a symphony, like a comedic symphony.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking now while I'm distracted. Gosh, I can't even speak properly. I suppose just because I've had sort of music on my mind recently, and so I'm thinking of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Just the part, not the film. Well, yeah, the book is better than the film, but I love the bit where they try and have a rock concert on some planet and try and get the biggest speakers and try and make the biggest sort of the biggest concert ever. So I kind of, in my sort of times of daydreaming, I sort of fantasize about getting the biggest, loudest rock concert or something as crazy as that.
I think the Who still hold the record, don't they?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, was it Carlton in East London? Was it East London? But I don't know. That was the highest decibel count according to Guinness for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. I might look that up.
Yeah. But no, what do I do? I fantasize about playing Schubert because I'm not a classically trained pianist, but I'll sometimes close my eyes as the impromptus are playing and imagine feeling, shit, I know he's a classical pianist too. Fucking hell. Those are just something I do as a hobby.
Oh,
but that would, either that or a homicide detective.
Yeah, my vote would be for the first one you mentioned.
Classical pianist?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Love Schubert, love Beethoven.
Okay. I just remember, so at school, I did, not at school, but I did learn the piano. And
okay.
Quite a low level. I took a few exams, and I used to love going to my piano lesson because the piano teacher, I worked out very quickly how I could make her fall asleep. She was quite a bit older, and I used to just deliberately kind of tinker the ivories a bit gently, and then just go more gentle and gentle, and until she was drift off, and then I would just say, "Hey." So obviously learning nothing apart from.
What would you do? Boogie woogie to wake her up?
Oh, I don't know. But then I moved on to the trumpet. I'm not entirely sure why, but I did enjoy playing the trumpet, and I became quite good. I did, took some quite high grades, and picked it up again when I actually later on when I was teaching, and someone asked, can someone play the last post? And so I
Oh, nice. Okay.
pulled my trumpet out and then played the last post, and then got asked to do a bit more, and then joined in their musicals and school productions, and really enjoyed that.
Oh, sweet. Well done, man.
Yeah, so that's something might pick up again. I've still got the thing. It's sort of one of those items one carries around with one that we used to use, and then it just kind of gathers dust and just waiting for the day.
Well, definitely keep at it, man. If you got the space and the neighbors don't get fucked off. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's a good one for that though. It's a good one for annoying the neighbors, definitely.
Well, East Grinstead, you got a bit of room there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I suppose
Seize the day.
because I haven't been there that long, that long. I just I'm still getting my feelers out, but I imagine I'll always use that as an excuse really for that I'm just settling in.
Definitely, man. Oh, I'm just seeing you try to call me apparently earlier, but I know what it is. You try to get hold of me on Skype.
Yeah.
And see, because I'm such a Luddite, apparently I have to have Skype on to get to know that somebody has got a hold of me.
Yeah, that's quite of a basic one, that one. Sorry.
No worries, man. No worries.
But there
I'm
again,
really slow with it.
a lot of these programs, they do just override. They just take charge and then decide to turn themselves on, and then at times you don't know where you are. I find it certainly with different or text messages or WhatsApp messages. I hear a blablung, and at times I just don't know where the hell that has come from. Which program, which software is it that's making that noise now?
I mean, I'm such a recluse by nature anyway. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. I've always been very skeptical. I had a computer when I was probably 12, and it was one of those gifts you want. And my parents had some weird thing, like if they went with a certain bank in our small town, that you get a free Apple IIc.
Okay.
And I think I had it about 6 months, and I said nobody's going to use computers in the future. I was wrong about that. I thought 1 year of hip hop, and then people start playing instruments again. So I was wrong about that. I was wrong about computers. I didn't know it was going to get this bad,
Yeah.
And I got on Twitter recently because somebody was saying, they're saying nice things about you on Twitter, and there's people saying horrible things about you on Twitter. And I just said, they read some of the things people were saying about me. I said, take that fucking thing down, because I didn't want it in the first place, and I never saw the point of it, So I took it down, and then about a week later, somebody said, hey man, I guess they finally banned you from Twitter. And it's funny that people think that the only way you can get on Twitter is to be banned, but you can actually make a voluntary choice to say this is a very stupid way for human beings to communicate. And it does bring out the worst in people, and it brought out the worst in me too. I remember during the Trump election,
Okay.
I was doing my bit trying to get everybody to vote for the guy. So I was using whatever means I had. I go on Twitter and say, please vote for Donald Trump, or whatever. So you've got to vote for this man. So this is our last chance. We got to have something of a bit of a pushback, otherwise we got no chance.
Yeah.
And boy, that's getting hate from all over the world, Nebraska and Iceland. I don't know where it was coming from. And the problem is, if you respond to them individually, which is what I was doing with each one of them, attaching a link to an article I'd written or something like that, And then finally, it's about 3 in the morning, and I thought, I'm really wasting my time. So I just said, I said, suck my dick. Which, you'd say in Missouri, suck my dick, at the end of the day. Like, I'm tired, I'm going to bed, suck my dick. And that's, that brought a whole nother tidal wave of stuff. And it was just, the thing, like, if Christopher Hitchens, gave a speech now, or back before he died, he wasn't required to hang around for 24 hours after the fact and respond to every idiot who had an opinion, and that's where my feelings about because I've been banging on about free speech forever, I believe for myself, free speech. And unfortunately, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of unintelligent people making use of free speech right now in ways that never were available to them before. And I've had to reconcile that with the fact that I'm not an egalitarian. For example, I don't think anybody who wants to do comedy should be doing comedy, and I think that is the major problem with comedy now, is that it's become easier and easier for people who there's nothing funny about them at all. And it's actually those people who tend to succeed right now because they're very innocuous. Yeah. So it's not even about left or right anymore, really. It's just about, are you doing something relatively harmless, and do you look clean? Are you kind of clean? You have nice teeth or whatever, and most importantly, do you get along with other comedians, and do you not have any highfalutin ideas about creativity and art, and then you're fine. You can be part of our program. But that is the problem, that's why you don't see good stuff anymore. It's the comedians that are the problem. It has been for quite some time.
Yeah, sounds good. So we need to change it then.
Yeah, but I guess all you can really do is just keep, doing what you've been doing before, Like this viral thing, I shuddered even to use the word. So I found it embarrassing. And I've always had like a consistent audience of people that know me throughout the years. Okay. But nothing like a viral thing. So all of a sudden I went up to, and I got kind of nervous. I was like, fuck, people are watching this shit now. After 20 fucking years, I've got clips all over the goddamn place from, 2 continents, and, and people starting to watch it. And then immediately, what you need to do is you need to keep producing the stuff you were producing before as if none of this happened. And that's, what I'm doing. So I cranked out another sketch, I did another video, and that's it,
Mm. So is that?
Because it's nice to get that feedback. It really is, and it's one thing to say it when you're down and out, and you can say anything when you're down and out, when you got nothing to lose. Mm. And that's what's kept me going for so many years. Is this feeling of nothing to lose. It's like, what do I get if I toe the climate change line? Maybe I'll get invited to a few climate change rallies. Somebody might give me 500 pounds to say something about the climate or whatever, but I don't believe in it, and I think it's stupid. And because I have nothing to lose, I can mock that. But I can't mock that if I'm on Mock the Week, for example. I'd have to toe the party line on the LGBT stuff and everything. And if you don't have anything to lose, you can really be honest.
Yeah. Did you say you can really be what? Sorry.
You can be honest.
Honest?
And you can if you have something to lose too. If you have something to lose too, you can. You just have to be prepared to lose it.
Yeah.
Like I gave these awards out in 2016. I don't know if you know about this. I gave awards for the blandest show at the Fringe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I had 23 different categories, and I was really breaking it down. The I Am Gay show, the I Am a Woman show. Which show was the most about being a woman, which was the most about being gay, and and I knew what was at stake, and I don't work a lot of places now because of that. But at the time, I felt I had nothing to lose. I thought, if you go down this one trajectory, and I just don't have that makeup. I don't have that makeup where I could just get along with people just by virtue of them being comedians, like we're all part of some brotherhood, because we're not. A lot of us are backstabbing little weasels, And,
okay.
so that's why I did it. I did it because I believed in it, and I think that confounds a lot of people. This idea of convictions, like I say. People are just now getting used to the idea of debate. So for a long time there wasn't any debate. It was just, we're going to do this shit in the name of niceness and fairness, and you all just have to suck it up. So now we've entered the debate phase, and hopefully soon we'll get out of the debate phase and get into the conviction phase again.
Okay, so
And say,
we're all. Sorry, I apologise in advance. We're all involved in a mass debate.
I think at the moment, I think with social media, things like Battle of Ideas, Spike Magazine, they're invested in the endless debate of it all. The right, the left, the right, the this, the that. But there's got to be a way to get back to some kind of transcendence through art. For example, one of the reasons I went off Twitter as well was a lot of people were using that Greta Thunberg clip, and some people were adding Greta.
Oh,
and,
right, okay.
It's almost like drawing a line in the sand. It's like, see, first off, you're not going to change her, and secondly, you've done nothing but politicized what I do. Whereas if you really want to win this debate with climate change, I think more than science, even more than economics, I think economics play a huge factor. Because I don't make a lot of money. And I had to book a ticket for Oslo for some gigs out there. They said, this is the greener option for this amount of money. And I said, I don't even care. It doesn't even register. I don't care about this greener option thing. It's money for me. But I think even more than that, it's about putting something out there and saying, this is funny. This is cool. If you want to be on the cool side of things, that's it. And really show how absolutely stupid those stupid, mindless, cult. I could never belong to a cult because I'm too much of an individual. So I'm always fascinated by cult documentaries. It's like, what made you so stupid that you would go follow Jim Jones to the... It boggles my mind. I don't understand why people would sell themselves out like that.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing things and things that are happening that just really does boggle my mind. I just cannot believe it at times. It's just insane.
You know what it's got to be. Think about this. Sorry if I'm talking too. Am I talking too much? By the way.
No, you're not. You're not. It's great.
Oh, cool. Okay. The modern Western human condition is very, very empty, and computers have played a part in that. I think again, the psychiatry, the navel gazing, the self-help talk has gotten us where we're really, really bored. And we're told we can't have heroes anymore. Kids don't even get to look back at their own history. They can't even go back 20 years in their own history. I saw some program on the news today that said that we're going to put more programs about how having a knife is bad in the classroooms.
Okay.
Kids should know that already. Kids should not go to school to learn about why a knife, you shouldn't stab somebody. They should look back to these exciting things, these exciting figures from the past, the Churchills, the Napoleons, good or bad. They left their mark, and that's exciting. So we live in a very unexciting time right now. So I possibly can understand why somebody who didn't have an understanding of history, literature, art, passion even, I can completely understand why they would want to think that man is destroying the earth and we've got, 10 years to live before it all dies. Because it gives them a movie to play out. It makes it exciting for them.
Okay.
But what's sick is they don't want to be a hero of the movie. They are perfectly fine to be an extra. But none of them wants to be the hero that deposes Roger Hallam, for example, or Greta Thunberg and says, this is bullshit. That would be a hero. They want to be just an extra, or at Night of the Living Dead kind of zombie. They want to, one of the brain-eating people. It's depressing. That's how empty their lives are.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm quite confident, in a way, that despite the dismality, that there is hope, and I'm often surprised by the number of people in different places who are speaking up, rising up, and actually joining good team or being on good team. I don't know.
I think so. I think we're kind of. I think Extinction Rebellion, for example, might possibly end the climate change nonsense because. I hear a lot of people say, no, I disagree with I believe in climate change, I want to end climate change, but I disagree with Extinction Rebellion's tactics, And in my opinion, that's where it's going wrong. Like, if you would have called the shit out like decades ago, we wouldn't be here with Extinction Rebellion now. But in the same token, I think people are looking at them saying, "This is just I can't get to work because of you people," and what am I going to do now? I'm not going to take a holiday because of you. No, we're still going to want to fly. People are still going to want to fly, and the only thing we got to watch out for is the government. Life will go on as usual, but the government will still stick these taxes down. So it'll be the same automobile, the same oil, but they're just going to say, it's an oil, health, climate surcharge or whatever. It's like when the hotels want you to do all their work for them, and I don't know when the last time you've been in a hotel, but there's always something that pick up your towels and because it's good for the environment. It's something about greener, and it's like you just don't want to hire a maid. and I know that because I'm working class. You don't want to hire cleaners. You can cut down on cleaner costs, actually having to pay a real human being in the name of this climate nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's in a lot of places where they self-service checkouts. Where,
yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think they do infuriate a lot of people, but to not use them, take a stand and say, okay, well, I'm going to just queue up and wait for some staff member to come and do the checkouty thing. Requires a bit of patience, and I don't know.
Well, I think it's to me, it's just testimony about how much people hate the elderly. And it's not a direct hate, but it's there is something about it. I thought this in America back with when America went for gay marriage. The California voted it down, I think, twice.
Okay.
And which really put the liberals in a headspin because they were like, wait a second, the blacks and the Mexicans are voting against gay marriage. Well, that's right, because they still have tradition. They're still hanging their hat on tradition. This thing that you mock. And I always think of some old, 80-year-old grandmother out in Idaho that is being told, get with the program, Grandma. I know you thought marriage was this way for thousands of years, but get with the program, Grandma. And I find it very insulting. It's the same thing with the checkout machines. Get with the program, or only being able to pay your council tax online in some places, You have to get a computer and you have to pay it online, and we're doing this in the name of ease and comfort, but it's really not ease and comfort. And people really, really want to hold on to, in this day and age, any shred of tradition or something resembling humanity, whether that's the shot clerk going, "Good morning, sir," or just something that can hold on to, even if it was highly romanticized and idealized. I think that's really important because we're entering an age of absolute nonsense now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and I suppose it's coming up to Christmas.
Yeah.
Are you making a coffee or something?
Oh no, I'm drinking one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, confused me. I could hear this strange sound, and I didn't know what it was.
Oh, sorry, mate. Doing that and chain smoking.
Okay, that's cool.
What were you going to ask about Christmas?
Well, I think in terms of your reference to tradition, it's coming up to a very traditional period. That's all, really. But one problem I see with it is how the churches have kind of imploded. Really, they kind of really have lost their way, and but it's just self-inflicted with their own sort of corruption and criminal activity. So it's just it's just I think difficult for people.
I mean, when I first came down to Folkestone, I went to a couple of churches because there's an Anglo-Saxon church down here.
Okay.
And I'm because it's history for me, and I love sitting in an old building, and even if you disagree with the liturgy, I love that something goes back thousands of years that kind of in some way, well, it is. It's the world that I came out of a Judeo-Christian tradition with all of its flaws, which I think the benefits far outweigh the flaws. So I came out. So it's like being connected to that time-space continuum. And the last time I went to that service, this was months ago, the vicar came out, and you got to watch it. And my favorite part, honestly, is the homily. That's when they riff. They're up there just doing. I like the sermon. So what are you going to talk about? You know, as long as you don't make it about politics, you know, we're all right.
Okay.
And then the guy comes out. And he's probably like 75 years old. This guy comes out, and he puts on a Leonard Cohen song.
All right.
Off an Apple. This is in an Anglo-Saxon church. Off a Apple laptop, he puts on a Leonard Cohen song. You know, and I like Cohen, but the early stuff before, it got all deep. You know, like the early stuff. And he plays this song, and then he starts talking about Syrian refugees, and it's like listening to and depression,
Right.
and the mental health stigma. So this is like listening to Stephen Fry in The Guardian. This is insane. And I ran into somebody from down the street. They said, you know, where you been? And I said, you know, I wasn't really happy with the last homily. You know, it's just we're besieged with this stuff, you know. And then this guy started criticizing Israel. And I was like, if you can't get your act together, you know, it's ridiculous.
Oh, nothing wrong with that, I think.
Yeah. It was crazy. Well, with criticizing Israel.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a strong supporter of Israel.
Oh, are you?
Proud Zionist, you bet.
Yeah.
Because they have done so much with that country, and because of that, the hatred of Israel, if you want to sum it up, is nothing but jealousy. And it's another example of people hate success. And anytime you get success, therefore, in their illogic, it must have been gotten by ill means.
Well, I don't know. For me,
and it's why people hate America too. It's like there's a lot of people anti-American sentiment out there because they think America, you know, they go back to the history and the root causes and all that, and they don't understand that history is made up of winners and losers. That's the beauty of history. There are ups and downs. There's winners and losers. You know, in the case of World War II, the right side won. You know, in the case of Israel, the Jews were granted a homeland, and it flourished. It flourished into a land of plenty, and people are really bitter and nasty about that. Sometimes to the point of bloodshed. And so when they defend themselves, it's
well,
no, you're supposed to lay down and die. You didn't read the script. You're supposed to lay down and slit your wrist. And that's what's going on with this culture too. You have to lay down and die. Your principles of male, that there is such a thing as a man and a woman, that has to lay down and die. Your principles of they all have to lay down and die.
yeah.
And so anybody that puts up a fight against that kind of nonsense, I'm going to support.
Okay. What I put up a fight against is genocidal maniacs slaughtering Palestinians.
They don't do that. There's not been a slaughter of Palestinians. It's not a genocide. It's not a Holocaust.
No?
No. It's funny too because somebody sent me an email. I got one anti-Semitic email. And somebody was watching the video and said, "Oh, he uses the word anti-Semitic unironically." Because it is such a really. I have met some I'm not saying you're one. I'm not saying everybody criticizes Israel is. I want to be very clear, but I have met some anti-Semites, and they're very, very subtle people.
Okay.
You know, they because they couch it in conspiracy. And somebody sent me an email saying they started off okay. The first email said they really liked what I was doing. It's good to see some good comedy, and they sent me some. They said I thought you might be interested in some work of mine, and I first thought, oh shit, they're going to send me homework. Now I got to read homeworks and read jokes and stuff. But it looked like an essay on Francis Bacon. So this is something totally different. It's an academic essay. I read this, you know. And then before I had a chance to read that, the guy sends me some follow-up email saying, it's just filled with, we're going to be controlled by a one-world Jerusalem. And I just responded, Baruch Hashem, I'm a proud Zionist, you know. And he'll still pop up with email now and then, but, you know. And that is a conviction. See, that's a conviction of mine. So I don't necessarily engage in endless debates about Israel because I'm convinced that Israel has a right to exist and that Israel largely is in the right. And so an endless debate about that for me would serve no purpose. I just want to see Israel continue to defend itself against people who are still largely stuck in their religion, which views them as inferiors and therefore not entitled to their own land. No matter how many Palestinians they take into the Knesset, no matter how much they reach out across the aisle, the world consensus will be that they're hated no matter what they do because that's how jealousy works. It's just that simple.
Okay, well, for me, it's a kind of simple life-death thing.
Yeah, I know. Israel should live
That wasn't what.
and prosper.
Well,
Gives us
well, I think
Nobel
basically,
scientists.
um, well, Israel had taken too much at the expense of Palestinians, and then they should swap.
How
So,
much land do they have?
um,
And read your Innocents Abroad. Mark Twain says when he went to Palestine, there was a few straggling gypsies there, according to him. Now that's Mark Twain, but I don't know if it was necessarily a big flourishing civilization at the time.
yeah, I don't know. I suppose I'd look at some of the maps over time of land movement.
You outside?
Hello.
What happened, man?
I have no idea.
It's because you were upset about the Israel thing.
Yeah. No, I don't know. And then when I tried to call you back, it was, and then, Skype would then, it wouldn't connect. It would then direct me to a buy subscription service. I don't really quite understand it, but
What you mean when you called me on Skype?
yeah.
That's weird, man. Yeah. Very bizarre. Yeah, it's probably some notification thing. But it was good, though, because I accidentally called somebody back who owes me money. And it was great. I said, do you know when they're going to pay for this thing? And he says, well, I can pay you today if you want. It worked out. Baruch Hashem. God is good.
That's good.
Adonai Olehu.
It's funny how things work out like that.
That's true, man. That is true. But anyway, yeah, that's where I thought it was like part of a Cold War thriller, man. I get really paranoid sometimes. I got to tell you, because people. I met a lot of political people,
Okay.
and that's it's my own damn fault too, because in 2016, I mean, everybody knew where I stood anyway. I've been conservative, I guess a traditional conservative for quite some time.
Okay.
But in 2016, I was just, I was very clear. We need Brexit and we need Trump. We need Brexit. We need Trump. And but I met so many I met Brexit Party people and all that stuff like that. And they freak me out after a while, because everything's movement and when you talk to them on the phone, sometimes it's like you think you're going to get assassinated if you don't follow the party line or something.
Okay.
If your imagination gets the better of you. Because they do. They talk about psyops and infiltration and getting into Brussels and blah, 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 and I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose in that field, I just can't take Nigel Farage particularly seriously.
I used to really love him, mostly because other comedians hated him.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I thought he did give two fingers to the establishment and all that,
Yeah, I used to love some of his speeches that he gave in Brussels when he was MEP, and I thought they were pretty cool, very outspoken, and yeah, spot on. I didn't really understand what he did since.
Well, he got together with the communists, unfortunately, and that's the whole thing. Is they were ex-communists, But that's the thing. People say, well, Brexit has to get done, so it doesn't matter if the commies can get it done, then we'll really get into, I don't know. It seems like there's some strange bedfellows going on there. But mostly, it's about, I think the whole world needs to free itself up from politics somehow. It needs to be free of it and get back to the transcendent,
I suppose. What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, I'm just shutting the window here so we don't get any nosebleed, but what do I mean by that? I believe true art comes from the individual. It never comes from a collective.
Okay.
Now, you could say that the Renaissance was a collective, but it was a collective that was spearheaded by individual artists. Mm-hmm. But we live in an age of such collectivism now. So the right is a collective and the left is a collective. The Tories, Labour, they're all collectives. Generally, they all are tending to move leftwards, and they've been doing this for a while. So even sometimes this pushback against the left thing can become its own movement. And that I think we need to be free from. and that transcendent way. Well, here, you know Roger Scruton, right?
Pardon?
Do you know Roger Scruton, the philosopher?
No.
Well,
I know. No, I don't. Sorry.
yeah, no, he said something, because my background is in literature. My master's is in 18th century British literature.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but I dealt a lot with the Romantics, the William Blake, Wordsworth. So I take in the Romantics as well. And Scruton says that the Romantic movement in art attempted to do the same thing that the churches did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't want to actually get rid of God. They just wanted to get rid of the institutions. And they were saying that there's a shortcut to God through art. You can get there through art. You don't have to go through the liturgy and all that. So even back then, art still had a transcendent purpose.
Okay.
It wasn't about, I guess the gritty realism of I haven't seen Joker yet, but I saw a very good review of the film. It's kind of summing up what I thought it might. I haven't seen it, but it kind of sums up what I think I might feel about it, which is just kind of this nihilism.
Okay.
It reflects the anger, but there's nothing transcendent about it, and that's what I think is missing. So if I go see a comedian now, and there's quite a few of them who are all of a sudden saying snowflake and watch out, you're triggered, but they're still doing the same boring form of stand-up.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything transcendent. I'm not seeing the next Shakespeare's, the next Beethoven's, the next Lenny Bruce's or Richard Pryor's.
Mm.
And I think that's because both the right and the left are caught up in this. For example, if you engage in the Twitter war, you're obviously not invested, I don't think, in winning really anything. Has anybody ever won an argument on Twitter? I don't think so. It might not have been done before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't find it an easy platform to use at all.
It's dreadful.
But I like the word transcendent.
Oh yeah. Well, there were the transcendentalists later, which in the States was Thoreau and Emerson. But yeah, so the object was to get mankind to look upwards, and now it is about that navel gazing. So how do you get a culture to go from, I don't know, Wordsworth's "The child is the father of man" or Blake's "The marriage of heaven and hell"? How do you go from that a few hundred years later to somebody going to the Fringe with their one-woman show about OCD? It's because we've taken our eyes off the transcendent. We no longer look back to tradition. We no longer look upwards towards God or deity or just the notion of creation itself or the cosmos, because we're rooted down here in the filth and the muck of screens and machines and likes and dislikes and all that nonsense. And this is the kind of stuff I wish they would cover sometimes when there's a mass shooting. They want to blame only the guns because they think a gun can load and shoot itself, but they don't want to get to the underlying pathology of why is it, we've had guns forever, but why is it only in recent history where these things are happening? It's because nihilism is being promoted on all fronts. A suicide bombing is explained away as root causes for some perceived aggression. Your child shows a healthy range of human emotions, and yet some psychiatrist comes along and says, put him on some pills. Or he's confused. He plays with the girls a lot. Maybe he is a girl. It's nothing but nihilism. Climate change, the climate change nonsense is the ultimate. Right? It's that we have all failed as human beings. Why? Because we succeeded and produced and made stuff, and therefore we failed. Also, too, I don't know where you stand on God, but I think it takes more faith to be an atheist. I think there's much more proof of, and because my definition of God is very, very broad. It's whatever originated this. It could be the Big Bang. It could be that watchmaker who set everything in motion. But I don't think this was a cosmic fluke, a cosmic accident. And if you don't believe that, then you kind of know that the weather is kind of out of our control, really.
Yeah.
That we don't have that power. And I tell you what, if we did have that power to control the weather, we probably should kill ourselves. Because this lot say they want to change the weather for the good, but who's to say some madman will come along later and change the weather for the bad? Man can aspire upwards towards God, but it can't be God, and that's the distinction. And so for people like me, it's just like the weather's going to do what the weather's going to do because it's out of our control.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those old fuddy-duddies that believes in, ups and downs, whatever. I still believe there's something out there, and maybe that's just a little defense mechanism to keep me going, or I don't know, but it does sometimes, in some occasions, give my life a meaning and a depth, I think.
Yeah.
Can I give you another example?
Sure.
Okay. There's this debate that's been going on for a while in academic circles that Shakespeare didn't write all of his material.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm convinced it goes back to that jealousy thing again. People nowadays, I think, would be very, very frightened. They're very uncomfortable with the idea that one man could have produced all that.
All right.
And similarly with Beethoven. And that's why you hear things in the modern progressive academics about, hip hop, those are today's Beethovens. They're not. There's an objective difference between the two. One clearly took much more talent. One had overcome a lot more adversity to be stone cold deaf and to write his greatest work after he went deaf. Because that, to me, bespeaks some sort of God at work.
Mm-hmm.
There's something happening there that is nothing short of a miracle. But that makes people very, very uncomfortable, because if Shakespeare can do all that, if Shakespeare can write all of his works and Beethoven can write all of his works when he's deaf, then what am I doing? I'm just some loser that it makes people uncomfortable. But that would be one thing if it made them uncomfortable and they left it at that. But they actually want to be him as well. They want to be a hero and a genius in their own right. And so in order to do that, they have to water down Shakespeare. They have to, do like a diversity rainbow cast of Macbeth in order to make it supposedly palatable to modern day audiences. It's just this notion of genius and talent making people very, very uncomfortable. So much so that they'll do what they can to knock it down. And that's transcendent. If we had a Shakespeare writing today, it would be just what the world needed. But who are the literary heroes right now at this moment? They're probably out there. We're just not hearing from them because publishers are looking for junk. They're looking for some story about what it was like to be fat shamed or something like that. They're out there purposely, and comedy agents. They're purposely going out there looking for innocuous junk.
Yeah, I suppose we have to hope it will change.
Yeah, possibly. Or just keep producing works of quality and hope that somewhere down the road people will catch up.
Yeah, that sounds far more productive.
Yeah.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
This is true. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds good. And where can people keep an eye on your work or follow you? Where's the best way for people to access information about you?
I have a YouTube channel. I'm just gonna see what it is right now because I don't know the. I tell you what, if they go to willfranken.libsyn, that's libsyn.com. That's got about 30 comedy albums. They're all free. You make a PayPal donation if you want, but it's got the little comedy albums on there and stuff like that. Then my YouTube channel is If you just search Will Franken YouTube channel and watch some videos and stuff as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's clips all over the internet. I'm such a bad businessman. There's stuff I've done all over the place, all over different channels as well. I've been at this for 20 years,
Wow.
And I've seen this stuff out in San Francisco and New York, and I see it out here, and you just gotta do it, really. The Greta Thunberg thing, my friend Andy, who runs Comedy Unleashed that night, Andy Shaw, I think it was back in April or May, he says the EU have got this girl now to plug climate change. And I watched a few clips and I was like, yeah, this will be easy. I mean, this is practically begging to be satirized, and I knew nobody else was going to do it. So it was an opportune moment, and I compared her to a Palestinian human shield, because they put the children out there and they say, come get this,
Okay.
fight this if you do, and with the autism thing as well. So you can't touch that,
Yeah. I love the short clip you have where you say, climate, please don't change. I don't know. That
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, for some reason that really resonated with me, and yeah, wanted to join in.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, I like that bit, because I feel sad for the kids.
Yeah.
I was lucky to grow up in a time where the teachers wanted you to learn how to read and write. In a little dinky little small town, in a little tiny little school, that they've learned. And I wanted to be a city boy. I thought it'd be cool to be like in New York City, going to a big school. But I'm so glad I was educated the way I was. Because they cared about education.
Yeah.
And I think I want to see a day come when people who need to be sacked are properly sacked, and that teachers who are leading these organized protests get the sack, and they make room for teachers who know how to teach, who know how to impart wisdom to younger generations, and mostly to the kids. They need to understand that if everybody's skipping school, then nobody's skipping school. You're just taking school outside. And if you want to be really rebellious, you stay in school and you learn how to read, and you learn about history. That will make you cool. That will make you an outsider.
Yeah.
But stay off drugs. Except for psychedelics.
Well, no, I think you're right with stay off drugs.
Yeah, by and large. I mean, drugs were very influential for me, I'll tell you that. But,
Another time, Will. How about
Indeed.
that? And it's been fantastic talking with you, and I wish you all the best.
No worries, man. When's this going up?
It will be Sunday night.
Sunday night. Okay, man. Well, send me a link when you can, would you?
Yeah, will do.
Cheers, pal. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Podcast on Everyman Radio.
You were playing like a song in my head, and I was saving all my luck for the weekend. We don't always get it right, but we wing it, and we fall right into place like a dream. And I was giving you my Fridays, midnights, but I was trying to deny that it felt right. Didn't want to tell myself you were my type. Thought I liked it on my own and I was alright. They're waving lighters, and we're slow dancing in the dark, holding me tighter. That's what it looks like in my heart. All that I know is I'm not myself when we're apart. I let it echo. I'm giving up, I want your love. Not gonna fight it, 'cause it's gonna follow where I go. Not captivate my mind like a light show. Oh, and I can't put it down like a novel. I'll keep giving you my Fridays, midnights. I could dance to your heartbeat all night. Didn't wanna tell myself you were my type. Nowhere else I'd rather be than by your side. They're waving lighters, and we're slow dancing in the dark, holding me tighter. That's what it looks like in my heart. All that I know is I'm not myself when we're apart. I'll let it echo. I'm giving up, I want your love. Shine a little light, shine a little light, shine a little, a little, a little. Shine a little light, shine a little light, shine a little, a little, a little. Shine a little light, shine a little light, shine a little, a little, a little. Shine a little light, shine a little light, shine a little, a little, a little. Not gonna fight it, 'cause it's gonna follow where I go. Not gonna hide it. So I yell into a microphone, shine a little light in. I can tell it's supernatural if you can't deny it. Shout it into a megaphone.
Thank you for listening to Everyman Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends on social media.
Goodbye.